Whenever people say your image isn't high quality, they're usually referring to this one setting. And maybe you've noticed it too. When you're shooting in low light, your images turn out a little too dark or a little too grainy. Well, that's all coming from ISO. In this episode, we're going to show you exactly how it behaves and what to avoid. And we'll even take you on a live photo shoot to show you exactly how ISO behaves in the real world. So let's jump in and let's talk about how to use ISO to get the best possible quality. Welcome back to the Fundamental series on photography. Now, we have covered a lot of ground. We started with what a camera is, all the basic parts of a camera, and we even looked at how a camera turns light into digital photos. In the last two episodes, we deep dived into what shutter speed and ISO is. Whenever we think about mastering photography, we need to think about mastering exposure first. Now, there's three elements to that. There is aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Each of them bring exposure to the table, but they also bring a certain secondary effect, and that is a second hidden triangle. Now, that secondary effect might be something you want, but it could also be something you don't want. In the case of aperture and shutter speed, it's depth of field and motion blur respectively. But that's just a quick recap. If you haven't seen those other videos, I recommend you pause this video right here, go watch those videos and come back. Now let's deep dive into ISO. The good news is it's the easiest of the three to understand. ISO controls how sensitive your camera is to light. Low ISOs like 100 or 200 are ideal for clean images, but it also means that you need more light. Higher ISOs like 1600 or 6400 are great when you don't have much light on a scene, but they do come with the trade-off of noise. This is digital artifacting that comes from your camera's processor and sensor. So let's look at a few examples. Let's say you're shooting in bright daylight. Then you can get away with 100 or 400 ISO and you can get clean, crisp images. Now, the moment you move indoors or you have gloomy weather, you'll have to increase your ISO to 400 or 800. Now, this is good to get correct exposure, but it's introducing more noise into the frame. I think the main reason that ISO is easier to understand than the rest is because the secondary effect, noise, is always considered a bad thing. Unlike aperture and shutter speed, where motion blur and depth of field can be used creatively, there's very few scenarios in which noise can be used in a beneficial way. So that being said, ISO is one of those things that you always try to keep as low as possible. Now, higher ISOs like 3200 and 6400 should only be used in worst case scenarios. These are things like dark concert halls, where you need to make your image brighter and you have no choice but to add noise. We're just finishing up this portrait session and the sun is setting quick, hence the yellow frame. Now, it's a perfect opportunity for us to show you what ISO does to a portrait or to a photo in general. So I'm going to aim, I'm going to set my ISO at 400 and I'm going to take my first picture. That image is pretty clean. Now I'm going to boost up my ISO to around 1000 and I'm going to increase my shutter speed just to get correct exposure. Take that picture. Still clean, but you're starting to see noise enter the frame. Now I'm going to take my ISO up to the maximum setting, and that's 102,400. That's a maximum ISO this camera can do. I'm going to increase my shutter speed to the highest it goes. That's 1/8000, and that's probably still not enough to get correct exposure. I'll bring aperture down a little bit and take one photo. And that image has a lot of noise. Now that's a little extreme, but it'll give you a good idea of what your camera can do as you increase ISO. So the pro tip here is to always start with your lowest ISO, adjusting aperture and shutter speed first, failing which you can bump up your ISO. Have you subscribed yet? Well, I hope you have, because by now you would have mastered ISO and hopefully aperture and shutter speed as well from our previous video. In the next video, we'll put it all together in mastering manual mode.